this morning. Heavy sanctions with core members, courts cutting partnership in today's governorship and House of Assembly elections. Inspector General of Police Suleiman Abba orders a restriction of movement across Nigeria in today's governorship and House of Assembly elections. Chief of Defense Staff Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade rules out military intervention as Nigeria transits to a new administration. Details of these and other stories. Good morning and welcome to AKBC 45 News at dawn. I am Miriam Ifutu. As Akwa Ibom people get set to choose their next governor and members of the State House of Assembly, today the coordinator of the National Youth Service Scheme in the state, Lady Ngozi Chukwuka, has reminded core members engaged by INEC to remain neutral and uphold integrity of the scheme. At a news briefing last evening in Uyo, Lady Chukwuka also called on security agencies in the state to provide adequate security to the core members to enable them to do their jobs effectively. The state NYSC coordinator warned core members to resist any attempt to drag them into partnership, saying that NYSC authorities will not condone any act of indiscipline and that anyone caught in electoral fraud shall face the law.
This emphasis was on the need for them to remain apolitical, disciplined, and firm in the discharge of their duties. The management of the National Service Corps scheme in the state has a record of high integrity and so shall never, I repeat, never condone any act of indiscipline by core members on electoral duties or any other assignment for that matter.
The state coordinator of NYSC used the briefing to debunk reports in some national dailies that core members have fled the state because of threats to their lives, saying that there have not been any such letters to the effect. Lady Chukwuka said that 2 people signed an SOS letter yesterday claiming to be core members, but on investigation, the authorities of the letter were found to be fictitious.
Lo and behold, those names and numbers are fictitious. So we got confused. However, I'm using this very auspicious occasion to appeal to all political parties in Akwa Ibom State to be rest assured that the NYSC scheme and core members are neutral and patriotic as far as this election coming up tomorrow is. I also plead with the politicians to try not to induce our core members. I, for one, will never condone any acts of indiscipline or misconduct from core members in this state. I want to use this opportunity once again, because this is crucial, to warn all core members involved in INEC duty to note that the scheme will not fail to discipline any of them involved in any electoral misconduct.
The University of Uyo has held its 2015 Covenant Service. The service, which is a yearly routine, was to rededicate the institution to God for His guidance and protection. Patience John has the details.
The Vice Chancellor of the school, Professor Comfort Ekbo, accompanied by her spouse, Professor Memphine Ekbo, led other management staff, deans of faculties, professors, heads of departments, students, and other members of the school community to the 13th Covenant Service of the institution. bringing the congregation to the genesis of the covenant service, the Registrar, University of Uyo, Mrs. Edaku Mondak, said it started on the 11th April 2002 under the leadership of Professor Okpan Ekpo and inherited by successive administrations. Mrs. Mondak expressed the belief that God has used the prayers offered during the covenant service to obtain things for the institution.
This day is where today's journey of faith made a mark in the existence of this university. To God be the glory for bringing us thus far. We are truly on a mission, and the Lord is not through with blessing us. We are here today to renew our covenant with the Lord and to be repositioned for fruitfulness.
In a testimony, the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Comfort Ekpo, thanked God for repositioning the institution for better services. She said, through the prayers, God has made the institution during her tenure to achieve successes in many areas, including the recent 96% accreditation of about 78 courses, commencement of pre-degree and basic studies program at Imomana College of the institution, collaboration with more African and other international universities, and establishment of the University of Uyo table water plant, among others. Professor Ekpo admitted that the service will offer the people an opportunity to renew the covenant with God.
By 2014, he used our hands, the heads of departments, directors, deans, to make exploits with the establishment of more structures, development of infrastructure, and social amenities. He assisted us to establish the Gender Studies Directorate, institute the Center for Biomedical Research and Innovation, also assisted us to open up an office for intellectual property and technology transfer, Uyo table water plant, establishment of the bakery, confectionery, the completion of the Bartholomew Egon Entrepreneurial Center, where we are using to develop our enterprise.
Prayers were offered for peace on campus, succession plan of the university, and blessings upon the staff of the institution, while a special number by the Reverend James Temple and rendition by the Victory Chapel Choir led the congregation into a thanksgiving mood.
Child of God, for the anointing is all we hear today. A new thing He wants to do in my life. A new man He wants to make out of me. A new thing He wants to do in our midst. A new thing in our days.
Preaching on the theme of the service, repositioning for fruitfulness, Bishop Emma Isong advised the congregation to make Christ their foundation, as He will never fail them. Reading from the book of Isaiah chapter 37, he said, anyone who puts his trust in God will never see shame despite challenges. Bishop Isong commended the university for choosing to enter into covenant with God and prayed God's blessings on the people.
You cannot sustain yourself by any means. And when you notice that, there's a man controlling your lungs. There's a power controlling your kidney. There's a force beyond you controlling your breathing system. If it were not this God, you would have gone.
Those present danced in appreciation to God's faithfulness on the university community. Patience John reporting.
The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Suleiman Abba, has ordered a restriction of movement across the country in today's governorship and House of Assembly elections. Mr. Abba, in a statement in Abuja, said the order comes into effect from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. when the election will end. The order, according to him, does not affect Abuja, where election will not be held. Mr. Abbas said the restriction of movement will not affect those on essential duty. They include the military, patrol on duty, the police, Red Cross, and journalists. In the meantime, land and sea borders have been closed by the federal government to allow for a successful conduct of today's governorship and House of Assembly elections. The closure, which was announced by the Minister of Interior, Comrade Abba Moro, will last till Sunday, April 12, 2015. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, the news continues. To stay with us. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in Akwa Ibom State has released a phone number for members of the public to use in contacting the resident electoral commissioner concerning today's gubernatorial and State House of Assembly polls. A public announcement endorsed by David U. Edak on behalf of the resident electoral commissioner has advised those with inquiries, reports and complaints to call the State or Resident Electoral Commissioner on 08142103910. I take the number again, 08142103910. We take another break now. When we come back, the news continues. So stay with us. Electoral officers in charge of various local government areas yesterday took delivery of election materials meant for today's election. The materials were distributed at the State Independent National Electoral Commission headquarters and observed by agents of different political parties in the state. Patience John has more.
The state INEC headquarters became a beehive of activities as stakeholders were on hand to witness the distribution of election materials to the 31 local government areas of the state through the electoral officers addressed as EOs. They include party agents, officials, security personnel, and members of the press. As at press time, up to 16 local government areas, including Urefong Oruko, Mbu, Ikorobasi, Temekbu, Ona and Ibno, had taken delivery of election materials for governorship and House of Assembly elections. The electoral officers, on receipt of election materials, read out the total number of ballot papers, forms, and the number of voting points for both the governorship and House of Assembly elections for each local government.
Collected the following materials. Ballot papers, governorship, 55975. House of Assembly, 50000.
The materials are as follows. Governorship ballot paper, 24140. 24140. House of Assembly, 24000. We have received a total of 48,48969 governorship ballot papers.
Then House of Assembly election 74100.
The State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Barrister Austin Okoje, promised that Saturday's elections will be free from irregularities as materials so distributed will get to various local governments and units. He said his commission is poised to conduct a credible election as they have partnered the State Road Transport Union for release of vehicles early enough to convey INEC officials and election materials to various polling units. Barrister Kojia also hinted that there will be no House of Assembly election for Okanafo State constituency on Saturday following the death of the APC candidate. He added that the said election will be conducted later.
As soon as they get to their various local government council areas, we will start sorting with a view to giving them to the supervisory presiding officers. That one will start as soon as they get to their various local government council. Then tomorrow, the SPOs will move these materials to their various polling units. And for that constituency, since somebody has died, there certainly will not be election on that particular constituency. But the law says within 14 days, election should be conducted. So we still have between now and the 16th, that's about 4 days after this election, to conduct that election.
Reacting to the distribution exercise, the state chairman of the Conference for All Nigerian Political Parties, who is also the state chairman of DPP, Mr. Martins Iyang, a PDP agent, Barrister Emmanuel Enoidem, Elder Ekong Ebienang of APC, and Udemu Kun of ABGA, commended INEC for what they described as a transparent exercise. They, however, appealed to INEC to sustain the transparency to the unit level.
On behalf of other political parties, I am satisfied with the conduct and the arrangement of INEC so far.
Every other party was supposed to say party agent. But that is not the case. All this level will have been more orderly, more decent, more solid.
There has been some conscious attempts to make it transparent, and our appeal to the Commission is that this seeming transparency should be translated to the local government areas and to the units.
Yeah, they're doing the right thing.
So far, reports reaching AKBC News has it that a total number of 3,025 ballot boxes for governorship election and 3,034 boxes of ballot papers for House of Assembly elections have been delivered to the state for this Saturday's elections. Patience John reporting.
The Commissioner for Environment and Mineral Resources, Prince Enobowa, has reiterated government's preparedness to train its workforce. He stated this at a one-day in-house workshop for newly recruited officers into the state civil service. The story is here presented.
Prince Uwa, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Mr. Fiong Charles Udo, emphasized the need for the officers to familiarize themselves with expected rules and regulations, noting that ignorance of the civil service rules does not absolve defaulters from being sanctioned. The Commissioner called on the workers to show commitment and dedication to the discharge of their service for high productivity. Prince Uwa noted that lack of capacity building can undermine performance, saying the ministry will continue to mount regular workshops for optimal productivity. He harped on time management and enjoined civil servants to do away with actions and inactions that could rob them of opportunities to discharge their duties.
The need for this seminar is just to refresh your memory. I just noticed that a good number of civil servants have not been able to relate very well with the civil service rule.
The Director of Mineral Resources in the Ministry, Mr. Joseph Okun, expressed appreciation to the Commissioner and Permanent Secretary for approving the workshop, which he described as the right step in the right direction.
The foundation that is laid today is a solid one, and once it is laid, it will help you draw out your service years.
The workshop was an avenue for participants to be enlightened on the application of public service rules, delivered by an Assistant Director, Department of Establishment, Mr. Akpan Brownie. Mrs. Vorobong Umoiswa, Chief Administrative Officer, Ministry of Environment and Mineral Resources, delivered a paper on ethical principles to guide a good civil servant, while Princess Aniekan Obong of the Department of Establishment presented a paper on record management in the public service.
President Goodluck Jonathan has approved the appointment of Professor Monday Tommy Joshua as the Registrar of National Examination Council, NECO. The statement from NECO made available to newsmen in Abuja said the appointment took effect from March 30. The statement by the Council Head of Information Division, Mr. Aziz Sani, said the appointment was sequel to the expiration of the tenure of Professor Promise Okpala, who served for 8 years. Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, has ruled out the possibility of military takeover as Nigeria transits to a new administration. Relations between the United States and Cuba is the spotlight as leaders of both countries meet in a historic summit in Panama. This and more in a foreign news segment with Mercy Ekere.
Chief of Defense Staff Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade has assured Nigerians that the country's military officers will never again truncate the nation's democratic process as Nigeria transits from the current administration to another, and has said that the military is subordinate to the Nigerian constitution. The defense chief has also assured Nigerians that the military will remain neutral in the discharge of its constitutional responsibility during the governorship and state assembly elections. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has warned that the employment of children below the age of 12 as domestic house helps is now a criminal offense which attracts a minimum jail term of 2 years with no option of fine. According to the Director General of NAPTIP, Mrs. Beatrice Jedi Agba, the new Trafficking in Persons Enforcement Administration Act had come into operation with effect from March 26, 2015, and that President Goodluck Jonathan had assented to it. She added that apart from the new act, which prohibits employment of children below the age of 12 as domestic help, the exploitation of children under the age of 18 who are employed as domestic help is also prohibited. United States President Barack Obama is in Panama for the 7th Summit of Latin American countries. Cuba's President Raul Castro is also attending the summit for the first time since 1994. Cuba had been on the U.S. list of state sponsors for terrorism, but the latest review by the U.S. Foreign Relations Panel shows that the agency had recommended removing Cuba from the list. Hopefully, before the end of the summit, the restrictions on U.S. diplomats in Havana, Cuba, will also be resolved. Cuba had been one of the 4 countries still on U.S. list of countries accused of repeatedly supporting global terrorism. The others are Iran, Sudan, and Syria. Earlier on, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez had a lengthy and very constructive discussion. The two agreed they had made progress and that the 2 countries will work to resolve outstanding issues. And has commemorated the 5th anniversary of the plane crash in Smolensk, Russia, that killed her president and other people. For Poland, the national tragedy has been the worst since World War II. The late President Lech Kaczynski, his wife, and 94 others, including top military personnel and high-ranking officials, had been on their way to mark the 70th anniversary of the Katyn massacre of Polish officers by the Soviet secret police before they were killed as the plane crashed at Smolensk. A huge tornado has ripped through the state of Illinois in the United States and is predicted to continue to push east, bringing severe storms and heavy rains. At least 1 person has been killed, 8 others injured, with several homes destroyed.
There's a package this morning, but just before going to look at the major stories. Heavy sanctions await core members are found to be partisan in governorship and House of Assembly elections in Akwa Ibom. Also, Inspector General of Police Mr. Suleiman Abba has ordered restriction of movement across the country for today's governorship and House of Assembly elections. That's a package. We thank you so much for spending time with us. Wish you a pleasant weekend. Good morning.
Reverend Ben Erabai, Reverend Dr. part of the World Changers International Convention 2015 with the theme Total Restoration.